Welcome back guys to another video that's going to be on my channel, and today I'm going to just be getting into a short video. It's going to be a quick video as well. It's going to be all about football tragedies, and before I get into the video, I just need to mention the sad events that actually have happened recently, and I will be talking more about it in this episode. The sad events that happened with the Colombian plane crash carrying 87 people. All but 6 people died, including 11 players that played for Brazilian club Chapecoense. Sad times, may they rest in peace. And yeah, they'll never be forgotten, and all thoughts are with their families, friends and anyone who knew them. And this goes for all of the tragedies that I'm going to talk about today. All respect and all thought goes out to the people who lost their lives in these tragedies. The first event I'm going to be talking about is the Torino plane crash back in 1949. Plane carrying Torino players home from a league game, a Europa League game against Sporting Lisbon, took a refueling stop off at Barcelona before making its journey back into Torino. When they were flying before hitting Barcelona, they were in perfect conditions. The flight was going well. Got to Barcelona, I think I was reading well ahead of schedule, and tried to basically wait out a couple of hours, I think it was, because they were obviously ahead of schedule, so obviously they had time to waste, but if they had not wasted that time, they would have been fine. But storms grew as the evening went on. They tried to restart their flight later on in the evening. The plane had poor vision, and I can remember it flew into the side of a mountain. Don't quote me on that, but the sad moments are that people did lose their lives. Everyone on board lost their life, and yeah, that was a really sad, tragic event that has happened in the world of football. Next, I'm going to move on to is Hillsborough, the tragic events that happened. I want to say back in the 90s, I think it was 94, don't quote me again on this, I'm not, without looking at my notes, but I can't look at my notes when I'm recording, when it all happened, but it was basically a cup game, I think, against Sheffield Wednesday and Liverpool. Liverpool fans were entering the stadium at a high velocity due to the police letting in too many people. They opened it up, and I read reports where people were entering the stadium without tickets, basically, because the police weren't checking, the police weren't paying much attention to the game, let too many people in. Too many people started, because back then they were standing up in stadiums, and this is one of the reasons why we now sit down when we go into a stadium. Yeah, they were watching, standing up, and basically people were getting, as more people were coming in, that people at the front were getting pushed closer and closer to the metal railings, because back then loads of people would rampage onto the pitch, so they had metal fencing up to protect, so people could stop running over into the pitch, but yeah, they got squished up against that, and 96 sadly lost their lives in that tragic event. The next event I'm going to talk about is going to be the Munich air disaster back in the 60s, I think. It was Matt Busby, or Busby Babes, his Man United team. that were playing against Bayern Munich in a Champions League game, or European Cup as it was called back then. And I do know a bit more about this because I've watched the documentaries about it, and it is quite sad on how what events happened. Basically, they were leaving to go obviously back to England, and when they took their first run to try and like fly off, took them, I think it was like 8 and 9 attempts to try and like leave the runway. First 4 times the wind, there was ice on the wings, and that was slowing them down, and they couldn't lift off. And the pilot was determined to get back to England that night. So he put the plane in full throttle, going on the runway. The plane was couldn't lift off. The frost on the wings couldn't open up like I'm not too sure what they're called, but there's like a bit on the wing where it helps them lift off, if that makes any sense, but couldn't open them. They were shut, and the plane just couldn't stop in time and just went into the end of the runway, which I believe there was like a building, one of those, I'm not too sure what they're called, but there's this like airport building that just flew into the side of, I do believe, only the manager, and I think a couple of people did survive, but one of the most famous people to survive that was Matt Busby, I think. So yeah, and Bobby Charlton also survived that plane crash. Many people did die, sadly, in that event. And finally, the last event I'm going to be talking about is going to be the Bradford City disaster. It's basically when Bradford City were playing a game, I'm not too sure who against, but all I know is that one person from the stand, because, well, basically the stadium, how it was built, they had the seats, and then they had the seats, and then they had a gap between each seat, and in those gaps people had been putting like, chucking their like rubbish, like they got a hamburger at half time or something like that, and they like chuck the napkins and stuff like that down there, and then one person lit a cigarette. Obviously when the cigarette was finished, he threw it in there. Cigarette hadn't fully been like distinguished, and it just caught onto like a piece of paper or a napkin or a wrapper, whatever was down there, and just lit the whole one of the ends of the stadium on fire, killing 16 people. It's not obviously not as big as some of the other tragedies I've talked about, but it is still really big, and it's quite sad. And as I said, all respect to those involved, those related to anybody that did lose their lives in any of these tragic events. But yeah, that is basically going to be the end of this episode. If you have liked it, please do leave a like, do subscribe if you have no idea, so you do not miss out on any future content that shall be on my channel. Also, yes, apologies that there hasn't been a Leicester City career mode or a Real Oviedo Club and Country career mode up recently. My Xbox and my game DVR is not working at the moment. I'm trying to fix it. I do apologise that, as I said, nothing. I don't know what's happening. I think I've sorted it, so there should be a video coming up soon. But yeah, that will be the end of this episode. Goodbye.